Hitman speedrunners have pushed this incredible stealth sandbox to its breaking point and beyond. But one day, in classic speedrunner fashion, we wondered if we could push the limits even further. And so, after a few weeks of intense practice and many failed attempts on stream, I became the first person in the world to beat all 6 levels of Season 1 back to back while wearing a blindfold, getting Silent Assassin on every mission. But just a few weeks later, fellow Hitman speedrunner lukedotpng completed all 6 levels in just 33 minutes, without a single reset or major mistake. Today, I'll be explaining the strategies he used to accomplish this incredible feat. This is how blindfolded speedrunners broke Season 1 of Hitman 3. But first, let's go over the basics. You have to navigate these levels purely by sound, while somehow avoiding ever getting compromised, caught on camera, killing non-targets, or leaving any evidence of a murder, thus giving us the game's highest rating, Silent Assassin. Blindfolded speedrunners use a ton of clever tricks to achieve this, the most important of which is standardized movement. When you play Hitman with your eyes, you can turn the camera to where you want to go and hold the W key. But if you tried to make this same turn blindfolded, how would you know how far to move your mouse? What this means in practice is that we almost never use the mouse unless we absolutely have to. I chose to hold it up above the mouse pad just to make sure it wouldn't move, which, as one chatter pointed out, made me look like the Joker was using me as part of his ultimate trap to catch Batman. To make our movement more consistent across attempts, we run along a path that causes 47 to run into things and get stuck in place. This means we can hold the inputs for as long as we want to, and provided we do them in the right order, we'll still end up where we want to be. That's the beauty of standardized movement, and you'll be seeing it all throughout this run. Speaking of which, let's get right into the first level. In Paris, 47 infiltrates the Sanguine fashion show in order to kill 2 targets, an iconic power couple consisting of Viktor Novikov and Dalia Margolis. Viktor is the owner of Sanguine and the ostensible leader of the criminal empire it governs, but in playing the mission, you come to find out that Viktor is just a frontman, and Dalia is the one who makes the pants in their relationship. Starting off undercover as an AV worker, Luke begins the run by immediately skipping the cutscene and moving forward to grab a fireworks detonator, triggering the remote as soon as he gets his hands on it. This will set off the fireworks display and prompt both Dalia and Viktor to head outside. As he runs in silly triangles throughout these hallways, you can see the standardized movement I was talking about on full display. Running in straight lines, getting stuck, rinse, repeat. While he's making his way through this room to a nearby balcony, let me bring the game volume up so I can highlight part of what makes this run so difficult. I should also note that Luke tossed a sedative gum here to draw away and knock out Dalia's guard. While you can sometimes hear your footsteps and other sounds of 47 moving around, background noises like these fireworks can drown out the things you actually want to hear. And even without a fireworks show in the background, Agent 47's movement is pretty quiet. They don't call him the Silent Assassin for nothing. After climbing the pipe and hanging from the ledge of this balcony, he'll vault over the railing and stand there for a moment before hopping back over the edge. It might have looked like a mistake, but he did this intentionally to rotate the position of his camera a perfect 90 degrees. Climbing pipes and hanging off ledges are just a few of the ways that will rotate the camera to a specific angle, which is incredibly useful for blindfolded runners. Scaling the railing once more, Luke does a little setup to ensure he's in the correct position before lying in wait for Dalia's arrival. He'll wait until he hears her start waxing poetic about her hate for Viktor, climbing up onto the balcony and shoving Dalia right to her doom. Fortunately for Luke, Viktor happens to be right underneath her when she's doing this little speech, getting squished by her falling body and giving him 2 eliminations for the price of 1. This is a brilliant usage of a scripted kill opportunity, the type that's present in many mission stories and that a lot of casual players will be familiar with. These kills are not only cinematic, but they provide safe and covert opportunities for assassinations, often with a cause like an accident or a poisoning. Kill methods like these mean we don't have to worry about losing our Silent Assassin rating when their bodies are found. With a single push that got 2 birds stoned at once, Luke's work in Paris is complete. All he has to do now is find a way out. He navigates his way along a series of ledges towards a pipe that will get him back to ground level. But not before he inexplicably breaks some glasses at this party and freaks out one of the guests. Sliding all the way back to the bottom, he'll immediately hop back on, setting his camera at the perfect 45-degree angle to pull off some impressively precise standardized movement, counting out the seconds required before turning to end up directly in front of the chopper exit. Unfortunately, he ends up about 6 inches too close to the heli and is unable to access the exit prompt, forcing him to run into this corner and back out a bit before he can leave. I know, right? What is this, amateur hour? But in seriousness, that's one of the largest and most consequential mistakes that I noticed in this entire run. It's one of the most perfectly executed speedruns I've ever seen, blindfolded or not. I should mention he can remove the blindfold between levels, because these runs don't include menu time, even in the cited run categories. In Luke's second mission, he has some highly educated targets on the chopping block: Silvio Caruso and Francesca DeSantis, two virologists who were developing a deadly virus in a lab below the Caruso estate. The destruction of this virus is also a vital objective in this mission, so Luke won't be able to leave until the sample has been destroyed. Starting off undercover in the kitchen, Luke skips the cutscene and runs up left then up right to arrive directly in front of a big pot of soup. You might imagine that poisoning a dish would be an illegal action that gets you compromised, but when you're dressed as a chef, nobody's gonna look at you sideways for trying to add a little seasoning. Well, maybe in the English level. Once he's outside, he'll take a moment to stop and ring this bell, causing Silvio to start making his way to the dining area. When you see Luke interact with these prompts by mashing the inventory button and holding G, he's doing something called a fast interact. This allows him to skip filling up this little meter and access the prompt instantly. It's one of the most ubiquitous pieces of tech across all of Hitman speedrunning, used for everything from dumping bodies, to stashing stuff in briefcases, and of course, exiting the level. By poisoning the soup and ringing the bell, all Luke has to do is wait for Silvio to secure his own fate. This is a way better strategy than the one we had before, where we shot this panel and waited for Silvio to walk underneath. The only problem is, shooting to drop it on him consistently is a little bit difficult when you're blindfolded, and if you did manage to hit it, you had no idea if you were aiming high or low or left or right, and you better figure it out quick cause his guards would be on the way upstairs. Having taken care of Silvio's elimination, Luke faces a journey to Francesca that would be a breeze if he had his vision. But without it, it basically turns into the Odyssey. He's gonna need to remember about 65 steps of standardized movement just to make it to his next kill, which is waiting up on the rooftop of the building he just broke into. To make things worse, these stairs have a carpet that almost entirely muffles 47's footsteps. Since the ambience doesn't change at all when you're traversing through this auditory black hole, you have to rely entirely on your memorization and the execution of the correct inputs. Here, he'll climb onto the pipe, making sure to account for the shift in perspective when he makes his way onto the roof. He's going to run back a little before full sending up left for about 15 seconds, tracing the perfect path to cross this roof without hitting any of the obstacles along his way. After making extra sure that he's run far enough, he runs down and then up left to arrive perfectly in front of this door, breaking it open with the crowbar. He'll then make his way down this hallway, before stopping to grab an access keycard for that seaside laboratory. That wasn't all we came here for though, so he'll head further on into the room, giving us a nice view of this painting that I genuinely really quite like. Is it like famous or something? I don't know art. Right away, he hops into this bin to turn his camera and prepares himself to collect an incredibly powerful hidden item. Sapienza is when I first experienced the real magic of blindfolded speedrunning. Once you've done it enough, your mind's eye learns to line up with what you're doing and the sounds that you hear. It feels like having another type of vision, like Neo seeing the code of the Matrix, or Paul Atreides seeing the world through his oracular vision in Dune Messiah. Yeah, I know it's possibly the nerdiest way to explain it, but you're watching a video from a guy who explains speedruns for a living, so I'm not really sure what you expected. Here you can see Luke knows exactly where he is, climbing out of the box and moving into the corner by this little ship. Pulling out his pistol, Luke slowly drags his aim to the right, firing periodically until he hears the sound of this model boat breaking. In doing this, he exposes a hidden vial of virus prototype that's coded specifically to Francesca's DNA. When the vial breaks, it will create a permanent cloud that eliminates her and her alone. This is still a bit easier said than done though, as Luke now has to find a way to get within throwing distance of Francesca's path, without getting compromised by her or her guards. He navigates his way back out to the rooftop balcony and pops into this office, letting him toss the vial to break mere feet from her stylish black pumps. Just before Francesca succumbs to the fumes, Silvio discovers the hidden ingredient in today's soup, putting an end to this experiment for both of them at the same time.
Two targets down. Now destroy the virus.
In making his way back across the roof, Luke pulls off some ridiculously clean standardized movement. Like, I'm almost forgetting that he's blindfolded here. And before we go down the whole Stevie Wonder avenue of false accusations, I have my fair share of experience with this route, and everything in this run seems impressive but 100% genuine to me. If any of you guys notice anything that looks suspicious, let me know in the comments and I can try to explain it, or maybe even investigate further. But for now, I feel it's very safe to assume this run is genuine. Now Luke hops off the roof and climbs back onto the pole to reset his camera. With both targets facing a null hypothesis, Luke's only remaining task is to destroy the virus sample, which is hidden in the laboratory several levels underground. This is not ideal, as the real antagonist of blindfolded runs is distance. I was way more likely to reset a run by getting lost than being compromised or messing up a kill. Thankfully for Luke, he's much better at using audio and timing to stay oriented, so he makes his way through the overwhelming silence of this stairwell without a hitch. He's now entering what is easily the most dangerous part of this level, an underground laboratory filled to the brim with guards and cameras.
Ether's field lab. You made it. The virus prototype will be close by. Look for some type of quarantine unit.
After executing some meticulously calculated triangles to move along this passageway, Luke has the audacity to set up a peekaboo lure, a risky strategy where he allows the guard to see him trespassing for just long enough to be lured over to investigate. Using the audio of the suspicion meter to judge when he should crouch back down, Luke waits in cover and mashes the Q button, initiating a melee takedown that lets him subdue this guard and steal his outfit without ever getting compromised. With his new guard disguise that will let him get around this area more freely, he navigates over to this corner. With a little difficulty, he manages to get himself sliding down the pipe towards his last objective. There's a variety of ways to destroy the virus in Sapienza, but most of these strategies are impossible without, looking at the screen. Instead of attacking the virus himself, Luke is going to use remote EMP to sabotage the facility controls. After getting himself into this crate, all he has to do to get to the virus control panel is get out and hold upright. A particular quirk of Hitman that really doesn't lend itself well to blindfolded speedrunning is the fact that inventory positions are randomly assigned. To circumvent this issue and make sure the EMP gets dropped, Luke simply sets up a yard sale, dropping everything he has on him and using the cardinal directions, left, up, not right, and down, to navigate his way down the stairs. Once again, he'll hop out of the crate while holding a diagonal direction, detonating the EMP to destroy the virus as he arrives right in front of his escape plane, finishing Sapienza in an astonishing 5 minutes and 49 seconds. As a former runner of the Master Trilogy and, other categories, I've learned a lot of difficult and complex strategies in order to chase records, but nothing even compares to the challenge presented by blindfolded speedruns. Grinding a speedrun at 3 AM on a Tuesday isn't exactly optimal for your mental well-being to begin with, I get that. But consider that normally you can throw on a podcast, watch a video, or chat with a friend at the same time. Now imagine practicing a blindfolded run. Your eyes are covered and closed. You can see nothing but blackness, sprawling and all-enveloping. Your headphones, turned up as loud as you can safely bear, sonically isolate you from the outside world as you strain to listen for the tiniest of pin drops amidst a flurry of sounds. You're a speedrunner in this scenario, so you probably don't have to worry about a significant other coming in and scaring you, but even without that fear, this amount of sensory deprivation is genuinely unnerving to deal with for long periods of time. And Luke said he felt the same way. In Marrakesh, Luke will be taking out 2 targets. The first one is Klaus Hugo Strandberg, who doesn't actually hold the title of diplomat despite the way he's strutting around the Swedish consulate. In fact, he's a banker that was recently busted out of custody on the way to be tried for scamming hundreds of millions from the people of Morocco. He's wandering the building, anxiously awaiting contact from Reza Zaidan, the second target of this mission. Reza's the corrupt general of the Moroccan military, and he's planning to use the protests surrounding Klaus's escape as a means to enforce martial law and eventually overthrow the government. But not if 47 can help it. To avoid the headache of infiltrating the highly restricted area containing Reza, he starts off at the undercover entrance inside his compound, bringing along a micro-taser, a tranquilizer gun, and a screwdriver. This one starts off as simple as it gets, going forward in a straight line and spamming the F key so you can pick up a crowbar on the way. Conveniently, a down right after this leaves him precisely on the edge of this door frame, so he can start jogging down this hallway towards Reza. He cleverly holds the aim button, causing the crowbar to lock onto these guards and let him know he's in position. Here he takes cover against this wall and aims in, swapping shoulders to ensure that his crosshairs will be on target when he fires. After popping out of cover and sprinting through the doorway, Luke takes a straight line into the room before holding forward and mashing X for a stupidly convenient accident kill on Reza. With Reza down, Luke makes like the Grinch and sets to work on killing Klaus, opening the safe in order to find a secret code word. He's going to use this to impersonate Reza and make a call to notify Klaus, summoning him to a meeting in a secret tunnel that runs all the way from the consulate building to an entrance near Reza's compound.
Honeycomb.
I see. I shall inform Mr. Strandberg.
As you can see, he gets a bit stuck here in this corner because he was a tiny bit too far left after he came out the door. But there's a lot of ways for him to figure out where he is, like this guard who yells at him after Luke bumps up against him.
Attention. This is First Lieutenant O'Meara. We are on full alert. General Zane is dead. I repeat, General Zane.
He methodically makes his way down the stairs and along this hallway, taking some weird lines that don't really make sense until you realize that they set him up perfectly to exit out a nearby window. Watching him move through these areas is where Luke's blindfolded skill is really on display, as he executes these standardized inputs in perfect order with impeccable timing. He also does a great job of using the audio cues provided to him, like this guard he runs into on the way out of the compound, or the conversation he runs up on as he heads towards the market.
What the? Only the best men. You know.
Thankfully, he doesn't have to be concerned with navigating that chaotic and open area. He does, however, have to worry about Klaus barreling towards him at the speed of a Ubisoft escort quest. He shows off more great standardized movement, making his way into the secret escape tunnel as quickly as possible. Once again getting a nice way to orient himself in the form of this guard saying a rather interesting line.
Who'd you have to salute to get this post?
Not bad, huh? I figure since no one knows about the escape tunnel, this is the easiest gig in town. I mean, all we gotta do is... Oh, shit!
What?
Shit! I forgot to leave the all-access keycard in the parking garage.
You kidding?
Once he's in the tunnel, he continues to bust out step after step after step of standardized movement, methodically navigating this hallway along the walls instead of just barreling down the middle, as he needs to be in a very specific spot to set up the kill on Klaus.
That's a nice piece of merchandise you got there, but you know the rules. Secure it and put it away.
By having his weapon out, he causes nearby NPCs to comment and give him an auditory point of reference. Although I asked Luke, and apparently this wasn't even intentional. Walking towards the barrel, he spams the interact button to minimize the chances of missing the prompt, using the screwdriver to puncture it and create a puddle of flammable oil. He then drops the micro taser, so micro that it's unnoticeable to NPCs, so nobody will grab it and move it out of the way. He then starts the process of making his way back out of the tunnel, getting some convenient voice lines from this nearby guard to confirm that he's moving the right way.
Okay.
Bankers are cankers. Bankers are cankers.
Upon reaching the surface, you might notice that this conversation he triggered earlier has come to an end, so he has to mostly raw dog this section, relying on pure gaming instinct, although the gentle hum from the static of this radio definitely helps him a little bit. You might also notice how Luke often makes use of the cover mechanic that sucks 47 up against the wall. The cover mechanic is really helpful to standardize your movement, because there's often a limit of how far you can go to either side, allowing you to exit cover from pretty much the same place every time. One of the things that I like most about blindfolded speedrunning is how much it forces you to appreciate the intricate sound design of this game. IOI are the masters of creating an immersive atmosphere, and all of the different noises you hear in this very brief section of Marrakesh really made me think about how much work goes into creating such an environment. Luke continues heading towards the exit, returning to the entrance of Reza's compound as a nice little shortcut that's much less crowded than the alternative route. Although he does get a little stuck every now and then, he's lucky enough to get some audio cues or have loud enough ambient sounds to tell that he's not moving. Once he hears this guy talking about the headmaster, he knows he's coming up to the final stretch. But despite having like 100 feet to go, he's gonna have to pull off a ton of standardized movement to make his way around these obstacles. In comparison, your expedition to the subscribe button below this video seems almost trivial. Right? Please? After popping into cover to get around this wall, he'll continue onward through the crowd and end up getting stuck against this display. Since the music to his left isn't changing in volume or position, he knows that 47 is stuck exactly where he wants him. Klaus also happens to be in the perfect spot, as he's currently standing in that puddle of oil, waiting for Reza to show. With his detonation of the micro-taser, Luke ignites the oil to eliminate Klaus with an accident, making his escape by running a straight line over to the nearby exit. In Thailand's capital, Bangkok, we have two targets. Jordan Cross, famous pop star who's like one dark eyeliner away from hosting his own yoga retreats, and his lawyer, Ken the Brick Morgan, who's come to blackmail Jordan with his knowledge of how Jordan pushed his girlfriend out the window. If you set up the meeting and allow Ken to confront him, he will actually come to meet the same fate, but that strategy is much too slow to a speedrunner like Luke. Bringing a snail, vial of poison, and starting off undercover as a guard, Luke begins the run by running into this corner and dropping the gold brick proximity mine, a little snail that lures and then pacifies NPCs. Once the exterminator is sufficiently EP, Luke will steal his disguise and set himself up to start making his way left across the area. He'll wait until he hears a nearby conversation to confirm that he's run into this truck, giving him a good lineup for some simple, standardized movement that puts him right in front of a tank of propane. The bread and butter of silent assassins everywhere, propane tanks are exceptionally useful, because their explosion counts as an accident and won't cause you to lose silent assassin when the victim is found. Navigating back out of this corner and towards the main building of the hotel, he'll hop over these crates and pop open this door to the atrium. Since Luke is weirdly trespassing in this small area behind the bar, he has to move quickly into the main area of the atrium to avoid being compromised by the worker with his back currently turned. Posting up against this column, he'll wait for the operations director to wander in front of him so he can initiate a conversation as the fumigator. This prompts her to make a call to Jordan and ask him to come down to the lobby while the place gets worked on. After he does this, Luke is going to navigate back towards the bar and run right into the corner, but he gets trapped by this girl standing in the way, causing him to get stuck on this pole when he tries to run down to get to his spot. There's a number of ways that this run can be ripped from your grasp, but running into NPCs was a fairly common one, at least for me. He's mostly undeterred by this error, and manages to hit a full recovery and start thanking his lucky stars that he made it back on track. In the meantime, Luke will navigate over to this precise location in the corner, tossing the propane and making sure not to move his mouse. He'll then begin the arduous task of moving through the lobby towards the restaurant. Sometimes things line up really nicely for you to just run in a straight line, but other times it takes a lot of work just to get from point A to point B consistently, like how Luke pinballs around these surfaces before heading through the doors. Thankfully, he's able to tell when he's entered the restaurant based on the music and the sounds of the kitchen he hears nearby.
Oh, I hope there are no bugs in my room.
Taking cover against this wall to standardize his position, he's going to run several triangles that will leave him right in front of a very special dish. Although there are many set up on this counter, Ken the Brick Morgan will come to sample this particular one, meaning that all Luke has to do to ensure his demise is pour a vial of lethal poison into the food, setting up a second lethal trap. You might be thinking, Aspect, what do you mean second? Well, when he tossed that propane, he wasn't doing it as a King of the Hill reference. When he lobbed it from that corner, it bounced and began leaking right here, meaning that when Jordan comes down to the lounge and waits for the fumigator to inspect his suite, the cigarette he lights will certainly become his last. Another frustrating cause of a failed run is something we call the slippery glitch, where the game randomly stops 47 from getting stuck at the angles that he normally would. Although this happens rarely, there's no way to fix it until you restart your game, and in all likelihood, the run. All that's left for Luke to do is run to the end of the pier and then listen to the sounds of the water. It's really easy to lose track of how long you've been waiting in the dark. I once spent 30 minutes waiting at the exit of Colorado, only to find that a rare glitch had caused a target to get stuck in place, forcing me to reset. Thankfully for Luke, things seem to be going well, as Ken just died to the poison in that dish. After a few more painstaking minutes, burning in anticipation, a distant explosion and the sound of a completed objective lets Luke know he did the job right. Look at this stone-faced killer assessing the results of his latest mission, just nodding like, yeah, that's what I thought, on to the next one. This boy's got ice in his veins, and he's gonna need it for the next level, which is easily the hardest in the whole run. Freedom Fighters takes us to Colorado to dismantle a cell of domestic terrorists, but don't let the name of the mission fool you. These aren't your average January 6ers we're dealing with. This apricot farm has become a stronghold to some of the most dangerous and well-known hackers, spies, and eco-terrorists. And since we're in America, basically everyone in this level is packing heat. Luke is going to be cutting the mission short for 4 of this cell's vital operatives. Sean Rose, explosive tester extraordinaire who walks between the testing range and this house over here. Maya Pavardi, who's posted up in this barn most of the time, occasionally walking out here for a stroll. Ezra Berg, who spends his hours interrogating this dude in the basement of this house before taking a smoke break on the front lawn. And last but not least, Penelope Graves, who pontificates in front of this whiteboard for a while before taking a long walk to inspect the nearby encampments. Beginning the mission undercover on the bomb testing range, Luke packs a microtaser, a container of nitroglycerin, and stashes a bottle of lethal pills along the Orchard Road. The brilliance of Luke's planning becomes apparent with his very first move, as he runs over and uses the nitro he packed to overcharge the explosive and guarantee Sean Rose's demise. Luke is again making use of a scripted kill. This is one you guys might even be familiar with, as he got this one from the mission stories that help you throughout the level. Now, all he has to do is wait a few minutes for Sean to make his way over. In the meantime, he'll pop open this window and hop into this shed, scooping up a wrench for later and heading out this door to go right back outside. He lines himself up for a long diagonal movement by first running up against this trailer, giving him the perfect setup to make his way right to the edge of this nearby encampment. Here, he simply runs up left a little to get stuck in the perfect spot to scoop the vial of lethal pills that he stashed, moving along to enter this little greenhouse. He's going to use the lethal pills to poison this water bottle, but he'll have to wait a little bit, as otherwise he'd get compromised by this guard sitting behind him. He makes just enough noise when he sits down and stands back up so that Luke can tell when nobody's looking. Sometimes standardized movement is optimized for consistency, like when he did 30 triangles in Sapienza before lining up that peekaboo subdue on that guard. He could have just tapped into the middle and full sent to the right in order to get there faster, but it would have greatly increased his risk of getting caught by the guard, as you need to be in a very specific location in order to pull it off without getting compromised. Here, you can see that Luke is freeballing it a little bit to optimize for speed, basically just feeling out how long he should hold certain inputs while following a general plan. He's also being aided greatly by that generator rumbling along in the corner. When I say that some parts of this game feel like they're made for blindfolded speedrunning, I could point to this section as an example, as all Luke has to do to get back to this trailer is hold upright. When Luke figures he's lined up against the edge of the trailer, he inches to the right and spams X until he's able to hop on, so he knows he's as far left as you can get. He's going to hop down and press back against the trailer before showing off another trick blindfolded speedrunners use to move consistently. It's called tapping. We know that Agent 47 will move for at least, let's say, 0.2 seconds when an input is pressed, even if the key were only pressed for an instant. So as long as we hold the input for 0.2 seconds or less, we know he'll be walking for exactly this long every single tap. So if you hear a Hitman speedrunner saying "I'd tap that," they're almost certainly talking about this. Luke uses this tech with remarkable efficacy, setting his right arm directly above this puddle so he can drop the micro taser and trigger it instantly, setting up a shocking surprise for Maya to discover later. Once again, the map feels like it was made for this route, as he runs left, up left, and left again. Only 3 sets of inputs, and yet he traverses a great distance and to the perfect spot to get ready for the next section. After getting stuck on this truck, it only takes 3 more inputs to arrive at the perfect little corner to change his disguise. Just as he's doing this, Maya walks into the electrified puddle to give him his first kill of the level. Luke finds yet another convenient lineup that leaves him right up against this box. This lets him jog right up this ramp towards the house that Penelope and Ezra begin the mission in. One of the most frustrating elements to plan around for these runs are the security cameras, which are moving back and forth at a rate that's way too fast to try and account for. They're even influenced by how much you're looking at them while you're in instinct, so good luck predicting where they are at any given time. This one in front of the house is especially dangerous, as you can easily be caught on tape just a few inches from where you need to be to sabotage this lawnmower. Since you can't exactly take an improvised pit stop to go inside and get rid of the evidence, the run would be as good as dead. Luke once again uses taps to inch his way further right along the fence, meaning that he'll be just out of sight of the security camera when he's pulled into the lawnmower's sabotage animation. Using the wrench he scooped earlier, he can loosen some of the bolts on the lawnmower's gas tank, causing the Blademaster 2000 to start leaking gasoline. With another accident now waiting to happen, Luke runs back to the fence and down this ramp. Miraculously, if you just run left from this position, you'll hit the perfect line to run right past the edge of this camera's purview, and between these 2 guards so you can stand beside the exit. Now all Luke has to do is wait the longest 60 seconds of his life as the rest of his lethal plan falls into place. Maya Pavardi was electrocuted early in the run, but there are still 3 targets remaining. With a single sip of the tainted H2O, Penelope checks herself off Luke's list, immediately followed by Sean Rose, who dies in a tragic bomb testing accident. Not exactly sure how you explain that one to the life insurance company.
Graves is down. Excellent work, 47. Sean Rose confirmed down. Nicely done, 47.
Luke then settles in for another long wait, standing around for almost 3 minutes, which feels like an insanely long time when you're staring into a black abyss feeling like you're 11 in Stranger Things. Ezra will ash a dart right beside the Blade Master, striking the fuse to his own assassination.
Ezra Berg has been eliminated.
With Machiavellian precision, Luke eliminated 4 different targets without even moving his camera, completing Colorado in an impressive 8 minutes and 7 seconds. For the 6th and final level of the run, only 2 targets remain. The first is Eric Soders, former board member and training director of the International Contract Association. He suffers from the titular situs inversus, where one's internal organs are arranged in opposite sides of the body. Thanks for the new fear, Hitman. He's made a deal in order to find a rare right-sided heart, and in return, he's decided to give a list of all ICA operatives to Yuki Yamazaki, a former Yakuza lawyer acting as a messenger for Providence and Luke's second target for this mission. He starts off disguised as a surgeon, bringing along nothing but a single remote explosive ducky. After waiting to ensure this fellow practitioner doesn't make him, Luke waltzes into the operating room and drops the explosive ducky in the corner. With the hard work in the OR taken care of, he runs across the room and down into this corner to open the doors. He has to be careful not to get too close, as sliding doors in Hitman won't open if you're right up against them, which can be really frustrating when your main form of navigation is running into things. With his hard work almost finished, Luke decides it's time to head to the spa. I can see him having a bit of a moment here as he struggles to get in this door, and I imagine he's feeling a good deal of pressure to close out what has been a near-perfect run. You can see that he thinks he's on the other side of the door, but after a bit of adjusting and using the cover mechanic, he's able to get in and find his way to the sauna controls. Immediately after turning up the temperature, he'll hop into this bin to spin his camera and make his way out into the spa, listening to the soothing noises coming over the speakers, as well as the complaints of these patrons who couldn't handle the heat.
I'm dying in here. It's like 200 degrees. Excuse me while I go roll in the snow for a while.
The little tryst he had earlier with the doorway won't cost him any time, as he has to wait for Yuki to make her way into this room anyways. Figuring like he might as well entertain himself in the meantime, Luke blows the explosive ducky, eliminating Eric Soders with an almost insignificant amount of damage. Since Eric is in the middle of a surgery, all it takes is a single tiny bump to kill the guy, and everyone will write off his death as a complication, even if you blast him in the face. After a rather serene intermission, Luke hears Yuki come in to check out the sauna, waiting until she gets inside to walk forward and bar the door, killing Yuki in what's gotta be the sweatiest way to die.
Hey, what are you? Open this door! Are you insane? Let me out, right? Now let me out!
That's both targets down. Time to find an exit. We're done here.
With that, the final target of the run has been executed. All Luke has to do is make his escape, using standardized movement to run out into the spa, across the hot spring, and down this rocky escarpment to a conveniently placed snowmobile. And with that, Luke blew my 4.5-hour run out of the water by beating the entire season in just 33 minutes. What a truly incredible achievement, and thanks so much to Luke for helping me out with this video, especially any and all of the parts including grammatical or informational errors, so be sure to direct any complaints to him. I'll get right back to working hard on my next video, but until next time, I've been a Spectacor, and thank you for watching.